Well, we're finally at one of the final battles. Contract that we have available. Now to start is the final battle into Coromir. It had said too that this battle, as in don't prepare to come back out of it until it's finished, and also hinted at the possibility of taking in multiple lances. So I had been pretty much a little bit annoyed that we only had a Leopard class dropship, which only allowed 4 mechs, so just 1 lance dropping at a time. So even though we'd built extra bays to have in additional mechs, we haven't really been able to field anything more than 4. That said, we've still got some pretty heavy hitters in our lineup at the moment. Massive spoiler alert, but you do get a Highlander later on, complete with old Starlead tech, including, of course, a Gauss rifle. This one has been updated fairly significantly with cockpit mods, lasers, LRM-10s and so forth. We've also passed on a couple of the double heat sinks. Who picked up that? I think it was the Catapult picked up some double heat sinks. Oh, actually no, it was the Battlemaster. Some double heat sinks. So the Battlemaster has been modified again, mainly to just pop out more armour. Armour has been quite critical in continuing and lasting longer. We have kept it the PPC and a large laser type format, but LRM-10s have been boosted up. Apart from that, it got stripped down a little bit, taking out the SRM-6s, taking out a huge amount of lasers, just to still, even still, I can easily overheat this sucker just by jumping and firing PPCs. Just want to get back out of that. We have got some other assault mechs as well, so the Stalker. We have kept this one pretty much true to form. LRM missiles, especially with indirect fire, has been quite great. And LRM-15s especially, only 7 tons compared to LRM-10s at 5 tons, so only an additional 2 tons for 5 extra rockets. So LRM-15s and LRM-5s are the most efficient, and so this double LRM-15s, double LRM-5s. Enough medium lasers just to be able to give it a blast, especially if we run out of ammunition, which has happened in a couple of the scenarios. That said, now 5 tons of rocks to throw. I think I'd previously been running with 3, and it just wasn't sufficient, and so I've chucked in an extra 2 tons. So that's the main 3 assault mechs that get taken into battle. They're usually just complemented with, in this case, a spotter mech, but since we're going up against so many heavies, the spotter mech's actually the medium mech, a Griffin. All of them actually have jump jets as well. The mobility that jump jets give is just really good, especially for positioning, but also just to be able to get a little bit of extra evasion. So as a spotter mech, I'm expecting to, be ahead of the pack, and sometimes just using sensor spot or something like that, but just enough LRM-5s really to be able to contribute, especially for stability. But this one will be running around quite a lot and evading. I had expected him to go in and get into the back armour, but it just doesn't seem to happen as much, and now with elite pilots and targeting, we can usually just core a mech instead. So enough mediums and smalls to contribute, but even if he's just sitting out in a way, being able to identify mechs at a time and really just give me some, at least some sort of control of the initiative path. This guy comes in at 2, but I think because of the piloting, he'll usually go up to rank 4, rank 3 or 4. I'm not quite sure. Especially with all the armour, we've hardly ever had to rebuild them, and so a lot of the rebuilding has just really been to bring in more rare items and so forth, and have them decked out. But it had mentioned that this battle may be able to run with more than one lance, or maybe run a lance and then straight into another battle, and so they were saying come prepared. And so I've actually built out a number of these others. The Centurion had been a mainstay of my army earlier on, just the Centurion A, and now the AL version, just with a couple of extra small lasers actually, had been just a slightly better variant type. And so we've hung on to one of them for ages, even though we probably haven't used them for the last 20 or so battles. We've just picked up a catapult and a thunderbolt. The thunderbolt came pretty good anyway. One of the only mechs that I'd seen that had almost maxed armour on the default mech, and then I'd actually just propped it up a little bit more with some rare items. The Jenna, once again, hasn't really been run for a long time, probably 30 battles or so. But one of the best light mechs around, top of the range of the light mechs. And so you can get all that initiative bonus and also the evasion. And works quite well to be able to go around and get into back armour and so forth. I've actually taken off one of the medium lasers just to be able to prop out the armour itself, which once again is just more significant than doing that extra little piece of damage and going into overheat. The jump jets have also been taken down, so it's really only a 4/7, which still seems to work quite well. We also had a spotter unit of a cicada, which is still floating around. Because it's a medium mech rather than a light mech, the significance wasn't like going from 35 tons to 40 tons. It doesn't bring as much to the party, like it's lost one initiative rank. It's around about the same speed, but because of the loadout, it actually did have 4 small lasers available to it, and the intent for this one was to actually get in behind and fire up the rear armour. And especially when we were dealing with light mechs to medium mechs, it actually performed better as a strike unit, whereas the Jenna was still more just as a spotter, and with all medium lasers, staying there or thereabouts in the fight, but just generally circling around, going for side armour and so forth. Whereas the Cicada was really intended to actually get in there, jump over top, and fire up the back. Our Battlemaster is probably our main defensive unit, or assault unit, I would assume, as in it goes ahead of everyone else and just stands and delivers using bulwark to just pound away. It does overheat a fair bit too, so small lasers and so forth encourages it to get in and start swinging at the same time, and that gets its heat back to be able to then pick up another one. But generally leading in with a Highlander, LRMs and Gauss rifle to make a nice hole for the LRMs to land crits into, followed up generally then by the Stalker, so a huge amount more of LRMs. By that stage too, the stability, they're almost always knocked over, and if that's not the case, Battlemaster with a PPC to just push them over a bit, or to use these lasers to land into open up holes. And so the Griffin is there a bit of an odd man out. It either is moved first just to be able to open up a spotter, or left right to the last, and so blow away all the initiative, move in last to be able to maybe contribute a little bit with LRMs. and then prep itself for spotting next turn. Generally though, we can knock down a mech each round just high focus. That's generally the way that we play. In terms of mech warriors, our own guy has actually been going pretty well. It looked a fair while earlier on. I didn't really put much effort into making sure that this guy was in the battles, but because he's the cheapest, it meant that any of these advances were essentially free, and so therefore I made sure that he was available in each of the fights, and if there were any cockpit mods, he was the first one to get some to give that, just in case he did get like an unlucky LRM hit to the head or something like that, you'd be able to evade or just ignore the first 1 or 2 or 3 of those. And so he's now almost maxed out, essentially maxed out once he got his gunnery and piloting up to date. We have got some others, some elites come through that were also quite healthy in stats. An Arclight too. Hasn't been around as long, but quite sufficient in terms of doing her duties. So Arclight is generally the one that's going to be running around in the Griffin. Sometimes she'll be swapped out with Decker. You could see, same loadout in terms of skills. Behemoth usually holds down the role of the Battlemaster. I'm in the Highlander, and Wildfire piloting the Catapult. The Bulwark on the Catapult seems to be doing alright, but generally using the jump jets to be able to get repositioning, and either getting repositioning for a shot, or repositioning to get into cover, or repositioning to be able to isolate one mech over, over being visible by multiple mechs. Seems to be more effective than just standing at the same spot and having the 50% reduction in damage. But that said, certainly the Stalker, if anything, is going to be the one that sits there and just has found his little spot on top of a hill far away and just rains down missiles. So that's pretty much where we're at the moment. We could easily have kept on going on a couple of other missions and made it out, but I'm actually quite happy with pretty much 80 weeks in, getting through to the final battle, and it feels like we're ready for it. We have been taking on 4.5 and 5-star tonnage battles. Our lance is running around about that 4.5 stars, and we should be able to just cane right through that. So even though they're saying there's possibly either multiple lances or multiple battles back to back, in this case, I'd be a little bit surprised if our main lance isn't able to be used at least once. At least like go through the first battle and then be prepped and ready to go through maybe the second battle, or something like that. But we'll find out how it goes. Ready to play? Yep. Alright, so here we go, final battle into Coromidin. So Santiago, welcome us home. We haven't spoken face to face since your father's funeral. All the time we've been fighting each other for all those struggles, we haven't actually talked until now. Alright, laser talk. I'm not here to talk with you, I'm here to demand your surrender. The endgame is a time for negotiation, not demands. The founding houses have rallied behind me. So the story's actually been quite good, being able to go through and pick up and prepare certain of the founding houses, and it's got some twists and turns in it, but it's actually been quite an enjoyable storyline. So this will probably fill in a bit of the backstory. Someone along the way gets captured, who is obviously Alexander. So we have pretty much most of the other systems apart from Coromandel itself, and all of the founding houses are behind us now, so this looks like it's about it. Heard your proposal, now you hear mine. You'll leave the system in my hands. You will leave the system in my hands and solidify your power base elsewhere. I will rule Coromandel, and I will hold your friend to ensure your good behaviour. If you agree to these terms, you'll agree to these terms, or you'll die. I will die. Your words are air, Uncle. You have nothing left to threaten me with. So you believed when you moved on Castle Nautilus. I'll see you on the field of battle. It went about as well as I'd expected. So he's going to lead from the front. And everyone's dropping down. So she wants me to remain ready, prepare and wait.
Still carries a full complement of battlements, plus enough firepower to level a city. You know it's too late to withdraw your forces. When I reach Coromandel, I will drown your restoration in a sea of fire. Every dog in Rhino cars will die. You took my son from me, Command. My hope for the future died with him.
So a couple of twists and turns in the plot line reveals that the Tauran Concordat was assisting Espinosa to be able to go up against us. That we managed to turn around, but yeah, the specific general has gone rogue and is out to get us really. Figure out what the secret weapon is. So they're saying that from his presentation from the Iberia, the bullet holes behind, like in the cabin, in the cockpit area of the Iberia. They're saying that, well, it was a mutiny attempt, it failed, so he still has that. That's a Fortress class dropship that's coming down. Then we'll have At least not through conventional means, so we'll have to be unconventional. So going to use the Locura. So in the one of the Star League battles, we managed to actually awaken AI virus, which happened to have got stored securely on board. So talking about getting it released and placed onto their other ship, which would be pretty fun. So Dr. Farr reckons we can do it. So there's never any guarantees, just do your best. So we're going into potentially a control tower on our moon to be able to get the AI uploaded. Jump capable lands to be out on elevated platforms. That's fine. Almost all of our mechs are jump capable. We're marching for the Director's final stronghold, Cordia City. Alright, so we'll do our part. What are we going to do? Take out a moon. Alright, so Highlander, Battlemaster, Stalker, Griffin. Don't need Decker this time, we'll just need Arclight coming in. This is that general front line. Yep, out to 4 initiative. Everyone else really just sitting back at 1 initiative. It is a bit disappointing because a lot of the rolling stock, a lot of the tanks and so forth are right down at 1 initiative too. And so if there's a bit of a tank battle, it's a bit backwards and forwards. They go on the 1 initiative line. But even if we're fighting like medium mechs and so forth, and they're at about 2 or 3, intentionally delaying until 1 initiative usually means that we can just concentrate fire, take something down, and wait for the next turn. Alright, we're good to go. Succession Wars began 2786, so we're positioned around about 3025 at the moment, or that's where the main Battletech universe story lies, with 3050 being the drop-in of the Clan Wars. So 3025 after 27, so it's a 300-year battle, and the Succession Wars of the Succession Wars itself. Pretty much at the end of the Star League, all battle mechs and so forth were quite pristine and you know, predictably around about 10 to 20 times the amount that has remained. But as the wars raged on and there's been more and more attrition, and rather than actually going through and building stuff, the first things that were hit were all the factories, and so Battletechs themselves are actually quite a valuable commodity now. They're not able to be rebuilt. They can be prepped up and patched and maintained, but very, very rare to see a brand new battle mech roll off the production line and get pushed into battle. Along the way too, there's been like loss of technology as well. So the old Star League Battletechs had, the battle mechs had additional technology that just isn't around anymore. That, funnily enough, comes back in the clan wars. Some of that stuff. So, maybe second last mission, Locura Mission. It's an all or nothing situation. Ostergaard is on his way to Coromidea to break the back of my army, and I'm on my way to join them. There's one chance to wreck the Iberia. Okay. Let's go. Okay. So she's in a rumble seat, which basically means she's sitting behind one of the pilots inside of the mechs. So our engineer really likes explosives and has packed a whole heap of them in on the rumble seat too. I wonder which mech that is in. Alright, so get Farrah to the comm control station. She's got to survive. Escort the APC to Alpha and Bravo. Okay. So what have we got? Looks like the comm tower itself then. So I'm assuming these are the turret control Alpha and Bravo over here. Small little landing bridge. Not much else going on at the back here. So the border of the map means we've got a tiny bit of high ground to play around with here, and nothing on the other side. This looks a very, very constrained battlefield. Now generally we're using mobility more than anything else to be able to control and maintain who we're fighting. And so this might actually get quite nasty. Alright, well, we'll just start moving up and see what opens up. Okay. 35-ton mech. 65-ton mech. 45-ton mech. And turrets. So we're quite likely in range of those turrets already. We'll just move up into the forest here. And I want to get this Griffin into a place where he can actually pick out one of these ones. Now he does actually have increased range of sight, which means that these turrets, like we might be able to see these turrets without them seeing us back. Let's see if we can actually get anything with the move. No. We're going to have to sprint then into place as the others. Five chevrons is probably enough. I don't mind these guys being out the front for the first salvo. Got a huge amount of movement already, sitting inside of forests. Yeah, that should suffice. Alright, action time. Jenna. So unless if we're actually losing a massive amount of evasion, we're really just going to keep reserving right the way through. Oh, that's right, the APCs. There's been a couple of missions where we've supported our own APCs, and they don't do too bad a job at all. They can generally contribute to the fight fairly well. So, the issue will be is that I think these turrets are able to take out one of our APCs though, especially like something like a heavy laser turret. But all of our firepower is way down here at Initiative 1, so there's no real reason to do anything but reserve at the moment. Orion. Okay, a little bit of damage, but not for anything really significant. Once again, this is probably going to be this 65-ton mech over here to come through. There's really not much we can do about it at the moment. But that's fine. If they're firing at multiple mechs, it means that they're spreading out, especially the amount of stability damage. If we're getting close to stability is the only time where I'd look at pulling out and retreating a little bit, or just rotating the strike. So we have pretty much ready to go. We have 2 on our side as well. Oh, okay. Alright. Ah, 2 PPC carriers. Fantastic. Okay, so a Vindicator and a Jenna. Actually, the Vindicator is more important target at the moment, mainly because the PPC can actually do something silly like get a head hit. The Jenna really just is like the standard Jenna armor. It's so light that one's not going to survive even if it tries to run around and get into a back arm or something like that. So that's maybe only 2 mechs, maybe 3 mechs worth of focus fire, but this one I'd rather make sure that it is done. Okay, so we'll start off straight away. Once again, trying to figure out a nice, neat way to focus on this guy. We do actually have a Gauss rifle to fire, so it's very likely that we're going to be able to just do a called shot and just unload on him. So I don't particularly like jumping in before a called shot, because then it means that it's going to be a huge amount of heat by firing all the medium lasers and so forth as well. But look at the difference, like 4 chevrons of evasion compared to like sitting inside of a tree and no chevrons of evasion. So jumping for a large mech, you'd expect to really just be a stand and deliver type thing, but it's just a significant increase. So 90s, 80s, 80s, 85s, jumping one bit further, 90s, 95s, 85s. Much better, and we'll probably prop ourselves up there for the remainder of the battle. Okay, so when we come, we're actually going to use precision strike, targeting the center torso, 82%, and a lot of these ones are actually, a 20-to-1 hit rate. Because he's fired at us too, yeah, center torso destroyed. There's generally not much, if they're not actually holding still themselves. They've got so much stability damage that it'll really just unload on them.
Okay, it's official. Rumble seats are a bad idea. And I don't like being shot at.
Okay, so it looks like Dr. Farrad is in with me. So that's alright, that's fine. Unfortunately, we don't control these PPC carriers ourselves, otherwise unloading on this Jenner would be pretty fun. But now that we have the Vindicator down, the great thing too is dropping a mech, we get a fair bit of morale back, and so the next one can also then do a core shot as well. So what do we have? Battlemaster, potentially just walking up close enough to get a really decent shot at this Jenner would be great. All the rest of those lines are in direct fire, and so at this position here what we've done was we've isolated the Jenner, and so I can definitely see the Jenner can see me. The others, if they stay where they are really only limited to long range fire, which is kind of perfect. Alright, so precision strike on the Jenner, center torso. Okay, so we'll probably just have a quick look at this. So one hit point left on the center torso. So I could easily just do a multiple shot, aim something like an LRM at that one and then pick off something else as well. Which is good because we have a huge amount of LRMs. Alright, so what I've got, Catapult and Orion. That turret. Now these ones actually are turret controlled, so I might just see if we can leave those turrets alone. They may actually turn to our side, which would be quite good. The Catapult will actually have a lot of LRM fire, and because it means that they don't need to actually have line of sight, they're actually quite a bit more of a strategic target than the Orion, which will need line of sight. He has actually have height advantage, and from that point could possibly see all of our mechs here anyway. But the old Catapult's probably the more of a strategic target. Okay, we may not get a large laser, medium laser shot anywhere actually. No, so here's about the range of medium lasers. I could potentially just aim a couple at the Jenner, but the chance of us hitting the center torso, or with a hit rate of 60%, I'd have to fire maybe 2-3 to guarantee a CT shot. Whereas if I only fire something like 1 hour and 15 at him, it's even at 60%, it's gonna drop him. Maybe even just at LRM5, or possibly two LRM5s, LRM15s at something else, which would certainly be something like, the Catapult. Alright, so I don't actually need to move up if we're just using LRMs. I may just look at just staying right where we are, 70%, 80%, yeah, that's fine. So we can actually just use the bulwark ability to be able to, if somebody actually is silly enough to choose us over others that have moved, 50% less damage. So multi-target. Pick the Jenner, pick the Catapult, and what we want is 2 LRM5s at the Jenner. All we need is just one to land in center torso. Yep, got him. And then the rest, really just to pepper him. It's great the amount of stability that I can unload on those guys. But unfortunately he's going to move next, and so he'll be able to reduce that stability, maybe possibly by about half. Except... oh no, that was just us. Oh yeah, no, we do have a Griffin ready to go too. Cool. So once again, Arclight moved into position to be able to really just open up and spot, but there's not really any significant damage that they can do at the start, so it's worthwhile just leaving them right to the very end of the initiative, unload with all of our main weapons, and as we've seen, drop 2 mechs already. But that catapult is now actually fairly unstable, and Arclight with a couple of LRM5s should actually be able to knock that one over. Now he will be able to get up before I can react. Actually no, the Griffin should be able to shoot before he'll be able to get up, which will mean some targeted CT shots or something like that. So we definitely want to just get some LRMs in on that one. Something like there. It's not ideal, but we definitely want that range. That's going to be sufficient, I think, for now. It's a bit unfortunate that most of the LRMs hit was at the left side when in fact we're coming in now on the right side. But the main intent of this is really just to knock him over. So pilot injury. It used to be good to just try to continually knock them over and just injure the pilot enough that we get a free mech out of it. But we're now starting to come up against elite pilots, and there's just generally not the ability or not the chance to do that. So Arclight moving before the catapult, and actually it might be the catapult dropping an initiative rank down to number 1 as well. Certainly has a heap of armour though, so we can just continue to pepper away. So we want to move first at this point, but get into a position where we can actually get lasers in on this guy. So jumping is generally a good idea. It's almost always better to land in forest. In this case, I'm actually indirect fire from this turret, which doesn't have any LRMs on it, and from these turrets as well. So most of them actually have directed fire. So even though that's not the best of moves, because it's not landing in any form of cover, it should actually give us quite good shots on him in terms of medium lasers and so forth. Not that concerned about the LRMs at the moment. He's already over. I don't particularly need to conserve them, but it's more about getting good position, choosing the getting the the free call shot. Now in this case, 92 armor, 100 structure. It's 200 damage, so we're not going to get anywhere near through that. But the thing is that there's going to be more call shots coming, so it's a bit of a crapshoot at the moment. Do we take out 63 armor to hit some side arm, some side torso, and potentially like knock out the entire side torso? What have we got on the right arm? LRM-15. And we have ammo and medium lasers. With the 80 points damage that we have, we'd really only be getting through armor, and we'd have to be incredibly lucky to take that out in one shot. So I think it's probably just going to be more prudent to just drill through the core.
Okay, I'm on it.
Oh, far out. I didn't see that. I left the LRMs on as well. It's not a huge deal, but it's just a little bit annoying. I've had one false move previously where it pretty much ruined the entire campaign. Just taking someone into overheat. Oh, in front of the peeps. That's it. Oh, uh-oh. No. Oh, far out. That's why silly things happen. Okay, so Someone needs to just take a massive pot shot of this guy. It's probably going to be our main one. I don't think I can actually get close enough to him. Oh, that is actually quite good. Jumping into forests. Good coverage. Yeah. Have a good chance that would actually drop that mech completely. Actually free swing at the center torso, and we've actually got more than enough to punch through that. And the increase in heat is going to be quite dramatic. Let's just take off a laser. And do we have enough now? 97 damage, 75, 2500 damage, pretty much guaranteed already. Yeah, we might actually just take them out. 90%. Maybe just leave one laser in. Should guarantee it. The problem is if the Gauss rifle misses the CT, then we're just not going to have enough to get through. Let's check. Nope, that got through. CT destroyed. 3 down. Come on. Fire the right. Oh, don't do that. Alright. Miss. Okay. Now let's bring up a Battlemaster. So we really only have this Orion left yet. He's moved, hasn't got much evasion on him. So this is prime candidate, and we've got enough morale. This will be a prime candidate for a call shot. Really just need a nice position, ideally. Yeah, in forest. Ideally, I'd like to be closer to actually use small lasers, but I'm just not going to get the range. Let's try a jump. No. So, the sideways move, but we're easily going to be able to put everything to bear on that. It's a precision strike. Sometimes it's useful going for the head, especially now that we've got call shot mastery. But unless you're absolutely wanting the mech, just going for center torso is just far more efficient. Right, so PPC, small lasers, not that much heat increase. It's not going to kill the mech, but what it's going to do is open him up, do a fair bit of stability damage. One nice hit from the PPC would be awesome. Go far at that. Oh yeah. Yeah, looks like sensor lock on to the Highlander. So he was in a position where he wasn't actually being spotted by the towers, and so that's not as big a deal. Now we're really going to be using just LRMs anyway, so it's going to be close enough. It'd be nice if we used a precision strike to be able to just target that CT again, but the main thing we're looking at here is just doing the stability damage. All of these are definitely going to have a huge amount of stability impact. For example, an additional 2 stability on this LRM-15 rack, additional 1 stability on this 15 rack, so that should definitely be enough to make him unsteady, but since it's unsteady already, make him fall over. So a bit of a splatterhouse effect, but knocking him down, dropping an initiative rank, and free center torso hits coming up. Ow, ow. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, head hit. A fair few of these have cockpit mods to be able to ignore head hits. Okay, so we've missed one APC. I'm hoping that this turns these turrets for us. So destroy the garrison 3 or 4 done, and get it to the con station. Game paused.